About 30 years ago, my younger brother Dominic was killed in a motorcycle accident when he was 34 years old. Our family was devastated, especially my mother. As is always the case, you push through the wake and the funeral. About 2 weeks after his passing, a few days before Mother's Day, my mother and I were crying together, and she said, "Jenny, I miss his voice so much. Do you remember last year on Mother's Day, when he sent me that beautiful cassette tape of that country star singing about his mother?" We cried a little more, and then I told her I would see her on Sunday, which was Mother's Day. The next day I was doing laundry in the basement of my home, and noticed one of the storage room doors opened. I walked over and looked in and realized that Dominic had stored many of his personal items there. Instantly, I felt this surge of energy or force that told me to take everything out of the storage room, and I found myself moving boxes and boxes of his things out into the center of the basement. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I felt there was something I was supposed to find. Finally, I saw a box sitting in the corner that said, "Recorded tapes from therapy." I pulled out the box, walked directly upstairs, called my mother and told her to come over right away. I ran and got a cassette player and opened the box. I realized I had probably 50 tapes with his voice on them from his sessions with his therapist. The thing was like if my little brother, who was truly special, he had Down syndrome, picked up one of the tapes from the box and handed it to me. It was dated May of the previous year. My mom walked in and I started to cry. I said to her, "Mom, I think we can hear Dominic's voice again." We turned on the tape and we heard Dominic talking about how he had sent his mother this cassette tape for Mother's Day, and he started singing the words from the song on the tape. We all stood there silently sobbing and realized that this amazing and kind soul, my brother, had managed to wish his mother a happy Mother's Day, even though he had passed. I took it out of the cassette player and handed it to my mom and said, "Mom, he really loved you. Happy Mother's Day." She listened to that tape almost every day for the rest of her life. I don't know if this would be considered paranormal, but it certainly was magical. It was like all the stars were in alignment, and I'm pretty sure Dominic had something to do with it. Well, this didn't happen to me, but to my friend's friend. Hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen. For privacy purposes, let's assume her name is Manal. She used to work until late in the evenings. On the way back home, every day she needed to go through a local park, as that was the shortest way. On the usual evenings, there are always a few old people sitting on a bench and gossiping, so she never had any fear of walking alone in the dark through the park. However, one day, she worked quite later than usual. On the way back home, she felt a little hesitation to go through the park, as it was darker than usual, plus the fact that she knew there wouldn't be anyone sitting on the bench at this time. But anyhow, she chose to go through the park, as that was the shortest way. As soon as she entered the park, she heard some noises from her back. So, she turned her head, and there was a man who was quickly running towards her. Oh, damn. She started walking fast. She looked back again to see him, but to her surprise, the man stopped chasing her. After a few seconds, Manal looked back again to see him. What the heck? This time he was walking so fast towards Manal again. She started praying so hard and started running, but to her surprise again, the man stopped chasing her and started walking in the opposite direction. To her surprise, this happened 4 times. The last time he was so close to Manal that it was a mere 4 to 5 feet distance and she could clearly see his face. Luckily, she was out of the park by then and felt so much relief. Yet no, that wasn't the creepiest part. A few days later, she saw the same person in the news arrested for rape and following murder. Manal was shocked to see the same man for those charges. He could have hurt Manal too that day. It could have been her that time. But why he didn't do anything that day when he could? Was he just playing around? Manal went to the police station to report that incident and to see him. Finally, she was able to speak to him and ask him why he didn't hurt her that day if this was all he was planning to do. The man's answer shocked Manal to the core. He said, "What? Of course, because there were so many people with you." "What? No, I was alone, Manal said.
Yeah. You were alone before, but as soon as I was approaching you, a few people came and asked me to leave you. I went back, but then I saw you were walking alone. I started chasing you again, and then more people came and told me to leave. I was surprised how so many people come at once, and that too this late at night. The last time I tried to come close to you, their shouts were so loud that I couldn't bear them. They also told me that they would kill me if I didn't leave you alone, so I just ran away from there.
That was even more shivering than what happened to Manal that day. But good to know that there aren't always bad ghosts. There are good ghosts too, or maybe angels. Who knows? So were they jinns or maybe angels? Tell me what you think in the comments below. This incident happened when I was 12. My aunt's friend, let's call her Mrs. D, came home and asked me to help her out. She had lost a pair of expensive golden bangles recently and wanted my help in finding out who did it. She was sure she had kept it safely at home and that somebody had stolen it. As a teenager who was crazy about Secret 7 and Famous 5 novels, I was excited. The next day, she took me to a small village near Mysore and explained to me that I would be meeting a person with special powers who would give me a small cup with kajal, or in English surma, and I would see in that cup who stole those bangles. I was supposed to narrate everything I saw. Apparently, this would be visible only to children below 15 years, explaining why she couldn't do it herself. I was very skeptical about it, but agreed to do so. We waited for our turn to be called inside. Once inside, the man asked for some preliminary details about what the issue was, and gave me a small cup with kajal. He asked me what color I saw. I was like, duh, of course, I see black. He told us that it meant that the robbery happened during the night. I was like, what? He asked me to continue telling whatever I saw. Frankly, all I saw was a blob of black substance, but I decided to play it out. I made up a story about how a masked stranger stole it and sold it in a different city. Hell, I even made up the name of the buyer. After the storytelling, Mrs. D thanked me profusely for my help and dropped me back home. She came to meet me 3 days later. She told me about how she traveled all the way to that particular city, searched for the shop, and actually found those bangles there. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? After all this, she gave me a lot of gifts, told me how important the bangles were to her, and thanked me profusely. Till today, I have no idea how all this happened. Can someone explain it to me, please? Because I'm confused. And with this one, we mark the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the strange and mysterious stories and had a great time listening. If you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.